Well, hello, and welcome to another Friday with the Family put on by the Oklahoma State University Alumni Association. My name is Julia Bimbrook. I will be your host today, and we have a really exciting guest. We're talking about one of the things that convinces people to come to OSU, and that's campus beautification. During those campus visits, it is hard to say no to Stillwater once you see how beautiful it is. Our guest today is Landscape Director Steve Dobbs. Welcome, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Julia.
Well, before we get started, I have questions of my own, but I want people to know that they can ask questions as well. So if you're watching on Facebook, you can type those in. But if you're watching on our ALC webinar service, you can type a comment through there and they will get those to me and I will get those to Steve. So thank you guys for joining us and please submit your questions. Steve, as we get started, I want to give people a little bit of your background. You are an OSU guy through and through. You graduated with a horticulture degree in 1981, and now you're back making sure that campus stays beautiful. So step me through kind of your time on campus as a student.
Sure. You know, this is actually my third time back, believe it or not. I was here in the 90s in the horticulture department. So I've really got to see things change over several decades, if you will. But as a student, you know, it's a special place, no matter what. And of course, you know, when you're studying horticulture and you're so focused in the classes and those types of things, I probably didn't experience the outside as much as I do now, even just because, you know, you're so focused on your classes. But I remember vividly plant identification classes and tracking all over campus, learning to identify certain trees and plants, and many of those are still here today. So fond memories for sure, bleed orange and orange and orange and orange.
And we'll get to what campus looks like now, what you guys are doing, but are there any spots that like you remember as a student and studying, like you mentioned, that have stayed the same and are really kind of a staple of campus?
Well, you know, the formal hedge look, I think, is very much a staple. And it's interesting that you kind of asked that. Even just last week, we had an individual ask us if there are still some of those thorny hedgerows that people used to walk on from the 70s on campus today. And there are. And I remember witnessing that, seeing it. It's called trifoliate orange. It's a hedgerow that there was more of it at that time. And it really kind of defined spaces on campus and forced you to go certain ways on sidewalks. You couldn't cut across the lawn areas. And there's still quite a few of those today, but they have nasty thorns on them. And people have fond or vivid or painful memories of those hedges on campus.
You either love it or you hate it with
That's
those,
right.
I'm sure. Awesome. Well, how did you come into this job? You know, you said you've been back numerous times. Step me through what brought you to being OSU's landscape director.
Well, I've been very fortunate to do many things in my career, from extension with OSU early on, right out of college with the OSU Extension Service. But I've ended up in Florida, worked for University of Florida for several years. And I was at University of Arkansas in Fort Smith doing a very similar job to what I am now. And had heard that OSU had this new position they were going to fill. It was going to be a little bit different position and responsibility. They were going to take a different direction in landscaping on campus. And I knew, gosh, we needed to do that. And so I was kind of encouraged to throw my name in the hat, and I did. And sure enough, back for that third time and couldn't be more pleased. And that was about 10 and a half years ago.
And so why is campus beautification so important? Like when you get students on campus, these potential freshmen, and they're touring, why does it matter what they see outside, what the campus looks like?
Well, of course, our biggest advocate is President Hargis. He and Ann, because they get it. They understand that They call it pride and place, pride of place. And so if it looks clean and it's beautiful, then people feel welcome. It feels safe when it looks that way. But more importantly, there are some studies, Julia, that show students can make up their mind within the first 15 minutes of seeing or stepping foot on campus before they even enter a building or meet a person. So it is extremely important in what we do, not only for recruitment, but gosh, this past year with COVID, there were more people outside walking around when buildings were shut, and closed. People were outside still enjoying the special places that we've created on campus.
Absolutely. Even studying on library lawn and just
Yeah.
getting out when you can't be enclosed, that makes a lot of sense during the year.
And there's so many special memories that college students make on campus. We have people who want to place a park bench where they were engaged out on campus, or where they may have met each other sitting out on a bench, or at Beta Pond, or I mean, the stories just go on, just like the thorny hedgerow we were talking about. There is a connectedness to nature and students, and that's part of the college experience. Now, students may not say, "Oh, I came to OSU because the such and such trees and such shrubs were so perfect," or whatever. It just feels right. It looks right, and students get to experience that space.
And so tell me what a typical day looks like for you. What, from start to finish, what are you going through?
Well, most people don't realize how many acres we have that we're responsible for. We are responsible for maintaining over 860 acres.
Wow.
So we have a full-time staff of about 60, and we have a couple of landscape designers. We have a crew that does just installations on new projects and seasonal color and Christmas lights, those kinds of installations, pavers. Our biggest crews, of course, are maintenance, who do all the maintenance on campus. And then we have a shop support group that are heavy equipment operators, a couple of mechanics, because we do snow and ice removal. So we've been really busy with that. And I really want to brag on our staff because, I mean, everybody has a different role, from picking up litter to cleaning up after tailgating, to the beautiful designs and seasonal color. Everybody takes so much pride on my team. I just can't tell you how proud I am of everything they do. And we talk about it often. What we do is so important in recruitment and retention, but also they may be the first person that somebody sees when they come on campus asking for directions even. So what we do, great staff. Can't brag on them enough.
And that is a lot of space. I did not realize it's over 800 acres.
And people say, well, gosh, what do you do in the wintertime? Well, like say snow and ice, but we prune trees, we clean up fallen leaves, we mulch, we plant a lot of trees during the winter months. I mean, we are never bored. There's never a dull time or a slow time, always something going on, especially when you're on a college campus. Students make it exciting. So there's always something, because we do work with a lot of students in projects and designs and getting ideas or projects that they're interested in, creating those spaces for them. But also, you never know what a student's going to call us up and say, can we have this event outside? And we want to do this. And we're like, okay, now we got to think about how to make that successful without, doing destruction to the grounds or the irrigation system. And so always something going on. Exciting place to work, of course, on a college campus.
Do you have a favorite season? Does that you have more people out for sports, or just the certain flower that grows? Do you have a favorite?
Well, a favorite season, of course, I think fall is always so exciting because new students are coming back on board, and then there's the athletic events and homecoming. It's just a buzz, pretty fall color, temperatures are cooling off, kind of refreshing. Fall is fun, but gosh, spring is renewal time too after winter, and then you get to see the students graduate and complete what they were here to do, and we get to be a part of that. So always exciting.
Yeah, you think of all the pictures people take at graduation and all those backgrounds. I mean, you provide those backgrounds by
It is so
keeping.
true, and even more so with social media now. I mean, you just wouldn't believe the number of social media posts we see where campus grounds truly is the background. And some we've designed specifically for that as well, but now it's even more visible because of social media. So it just helps speak for itself, you know.
And I think we have some pictures here too to pull up. But as we do that, you touched on it a little bit, but about how much time does it take from staff to keep everything looking great?
Well, I mean, we have our seasons of doing things, you know, because there's a certain time to prune and a certain time to fertilize and a certain time to plant and mulch and trim. And again, a lot of those are directed or uh, done in conjunction with an event like homecoming or commencement. But you kind of get your routine of when you need to do things. But because of the magnitude, a lot of our zones may be over several hundred acres. So you may have a staff of 4 or 5 or 6 maintenance folks. It's a lot to do. Just think about your own backyard and then, magnify that for sure. So, and there's always weather challenges, as we know. Goodness gracious, this year has been probably one of the most challenging, but that also makes it, challenging and when you need to do certain things or how long it takes you to do certain things.
And so, what's the process of keeping up with the topiaries? We may have some pictures of those as well. And how are they created, the inspiration? I want to know all of that.
Well, the topiaries, there's the OSU ones that folks can see. Those were installed when we celebrated our 125th anniversary. So kind of a special year that we introduced those. We have the boot topiary, of course, the OSU topiary, the hat. And then this last year, we introduced the OSU silhouette people, we call them. That was intended to be for homecoming. Of course, COVID changed that. But it was really done to create excitement, showcase the talents of our staff because we do all of the designs of those and the construction of those in-house. There's the hat. People may not know the story of the hat. Garth Brooks actually sent us his favorite cowboy hat. We did a 3D scan of it, and that's an exact replica of it. Of course, we took the brand of the hat off and then put OSU on it. There's the silhouette people we introduced last year, and it ended up being a good advertisement for wearing your mask.
That's a creative spin. I like what you guys did there.
My previous job, I kind of experimented with topiaries a little bit and kind of got the hang of it. And then when we came here, I showed some of those in my interview, believe it or not. And when I came here, then it was kind of expected that we might try one on campus. The boot was the first one we did. We decided the best location for it, the scale or size of it. And then it truly is a living piece of art. So you have a heavy metal frame. You have to have a area to hook a crane onto it because we actually lift them in place with the crane and take them out with the crane, and they overwinter in the greenhouses that we have. There's potting soil in it. There's drip irrigation. They're held together with kind of like a coated chicken wire, if you will, and then you plant little plugs within that chicken wire. And then that's how you make the patterns. And then we trim them all summer long. And it's become part of the campus culture.
So is it kind of similar to, I know it's different, but kind of similar to those homecoming decks that people palm?
very similar, as far as the process. The only difference is you're not pumping in, you're pumping into chicken wire, if you will, but you're pumping in live plants into potting soil, and those roots grow into the soil. And then you've got to maintain them, keep them watered, keep them trimmed to keep the shape. And I'll never forget the first year we introduced the boot. We took it out the few days before the first hard freeze, and we got a call from a family who said, "Oh my gosh, what happened to the boot? Our family portraits were scheduled this weekend and it's gone, it's missing." And, people didn't realize we needed to take it in because it's not cold hardy plants. But gosh, it was so rewarding right off the bat because people again really connected with it, what it meant, and it just makes our campus unique, I think, and creates smiles when people walk by. So.
And one of the spots I remember just touring, and I had been there growing up as well, but standing in those formal gardens, that is a view that is hard to beat. And that's seasonal as well, right? Are you always planning out what's going to go in there?
Yes. The formal gardens, that's a great shot of them there. We do have permanent plantings around the edge of it, which kind of makes the formal feel to it, but then the seasonal color would be in the beds on the inside. And those gardens, we design those usually in September, October for the next year on what we're going to plant. And then we make our orders. Some things we grow from seed, some things we take cuttings on, but we buy a lot of plugs, and those come in usually in February, March. We grow the plants out, and then we plant either the week before or after commencement. It just kind of depends on the weather. We definitely try to watch that weather. If it gets too cold, we'll delay the planting. So that's all summer long that you would see those designs, and we change them up every year. There'll always be orange in it. Now, it's not always orange. A lot of people are surprised that there's so many colors or varieties of orange flowers. That's last year. You can see we placed the topiary hat in a different location. The color scheme had some yellows and whites in it. One year it may be pink color or silver. I mean, we have color schemes that we design with, and then those are replicated through all of campus where we have seasonal color. But like I said, there'll always be orange in those seasonal color beds. So you're right. The number of photos that are taken there are just unbelievable. And then in the winter, yeah. And then, like I say, we have fun. We did some rustic planters last year to kind of match that color scheme, and those were recycled right out of repurposed pallets. But after the first hard freeze, we pull it all up, we compost it. We use the compost for adding back into the soil, improving soil, and for mulch. But we then plant winter crops like wheat or rye grain to have like a grass-like texture all winter long. Green is a beautiful color when you're in the middle of winter, but it kind of showcases the agronomic side of OSU, the crop. But why it works for us, it serves as a cover crop, a green manure crop, so we can actually till it back in and it adds better organic matter. But because we do the holiday Christmas lights, as well, and those are in the formal garden beds and on the hedges. It's more affordable for us. It helps us, add the green manure crop back in, but it also allows us to walk on it and put the holiday lights on. And then, like I said, it's beautiful color in the winter. So we really have two growing seasons of seasonal color in the formal garden.
And as you were talking, Steve, one of the Facebook comments popped up that said, "We are so fortunate to have Steve," and then said where they were from and how grateful they were for you. So that's awesome to see as well. thinking back to, I believe it was 2016, 2017, but correct me if I'm wrong, the Welcome Plaza that went up right across from the Alumni Association, next the back of the Union. What went into the planning of that and a new project? How long does that take?
It was probably 3 years of design work, really, to get it to the point that we were pleased with what we had. And that's probably one of the most special places on campus because when prospective students and their parents come on campus, they'll park usually in the Student Union parking garage, and they would walk across this very corner, either to the Union or the Alumni Center. And it was very unsightly. It needed a makeover like crazy. And Kyle Ray, he called me up one day and he said, Steve, this is the front door to campus. We need to make this exciting and creative. And when people walk through it, they know what the Cowboy feel is and the message. And let's make it a wild garden. And those are the kind of challenges you love as a designer. So the design team got together, we brainstormed, met back with Kyle and some of his different people, talked about some of the unique features, and then it just came together. And gosh, now that it's maturing and the trees are maturing, and one unique thing about that, Julie, is every plant in that garden is a native plant. So it's not a formal feel like you're used to seeing on campus. It's a little bit more rustic. You see the mare and the foal, the bronze art pieces. You know, we involve students in naming those, and they're named Proud and Immortal, of course. And those art pieces represent OSU again. The mare is representative of the alums or the parents, and if you'll see, she's got a watchful eye over the foe, who is the college student or the prospective student coming in ready to run out ahead and change the world. And then the mare kind of keeps a watchful eye on her, so it represents family. And of course, you're familiar with our Cowboy code, and when you walk under those pillars, columns, we've got the Cowboy code on every column, and so by the time you're in the front door, you know what we're all about. And there's a garden just for, we like to call it the hangout garden. That's got the water feature for moms and dads when they're stressed out over kids going on tours and getting ready to come to college. That's the hangout place for moms and dads to chill out and relax, and kind of right there is the garden there that I'm talking about. But benches, like I say, those trees are matured now. Just spectacular. I hope people will stop by and see that one because it is branding like crazy. And I'll never forget, President Hargis said, Steve, why do we need OSU letters on those walls? People know they're on campus in Stillwater. And we were like, absolutely, but this is an opportunity through social media when everybody hops on that saddle and takes a picture with pistols firing. You can see the saddle, also a bronze art piece. OSU is behind it, and so we're getting branding and free advertising like crazy, and it has worked. Oh my gosh, the tarnish, the bronze finish is already starting to wear off on the saddle horn of that bronze piece because so many people climb up on it and get a picture made. Just a spectacular garden. So proud of that one.
You thought of everything there. I love the garden, and I didn't even realize all of the symbolism and the alumni horse. That's so cool and really representative about what OSU is all about.
Yes, and of course, you know, people either go to the alumni building or, like say, the student union. So we've got the pathways are really purposefully planned to take you to those main entrances and get you connected. So, and that circle right there is the shape of a horseshoe, the sidewalk even. So really has some special touches to it. It's turned out really well.
That's amazing. Well, a little bit more serious topic. I know you guys have been dealing with a lot after these winter storms.
Yeah.
In your position, what does that look like? I mean, October was a tough time there in Oklahoma.
Well, we always do the snow and ice removal, like I told you, but as long as I've been doing this, I've never experienced an ice storm in October when the trees still had their leaves on them. I mean, it was just crazy. And for people who may not know, oak trees or pecan trees, they have alternate bearing seasons, so they'll have a heavier fruit crop one year, and the next year they won't have as many pecans or acorns. This happened to be the year of the heavy crop, so this strange ice storm came in October, coated everything with ice, and because of all the leaves and the fruit still on them, trees just broke like crazy. We've got a urban forest that every tree is inventory, and what you're seeing are pictures of us cleaning up the next couple of days and even to this day. But we're now at about $188,000 just in labor to clean all of that up. Piles and piles of branches and limbs. We had 70% of all of our I think we've got about 3,700 trees inventoried. We had 70% of them with damage and had to remove over 50, and some were huge, majestic trees that were 7,500 years of age. So just devastating, and mainly more so because the foliage was still on the trees. So, there's a lot of cleanup. Now we've got to plant new trees. It's very expensive. Now we'll have some disease problems because of the damage, but just a crazy time of year to have an ice storm. And Julie, you may not have been on campus then, but it was beautiful, but it just, every time a branch would break, it would just echo. And what is so bizarre with that one, a few weeks later, we had one of the most majestic fall colors we've ever had, but we had an ice storm before the trees even turned fall color. So crazy weather, always.
Yes, Oklahoma weather is unpredictable for sure.
And it's so hard to plan.
Yeah, and we have quite a few questions coming in from the audience, so I better get to those.
Very good.
How often do you have to maintain the OSU logo made out of hedges?
Well, that may be in the formal garden, yes. Now, we don't do that every year because that is high maintenance. Those are seasonal colors, plants that are just there for the growing season. They trim them every week, the staff that's assigned to that garden. And we kind of joke that there are Edward Scissorhands person because they're really good at using scissors and trimmers just to keep those shapes. So you have to choose the right plants that will take that amount of pruning, and then every week there's somebody in there trimming those to keep that shape. So we don't do that very often because it's high maintenance, only special times. And so last year we had a little bit that way. And then this year, because we are going to celebrate homecoming this year, right? The 100th year. That's what I'm told, and I'm ready. We'll have some surprises this year that will be a little bit more higher maintenance probably too. So hopefully folks can come back to campus this fall and see the surprises that we have.
Ooh, that's a nice teaser. You're going to get
very good. Yeah.
So this next person said, the campus looks fabulous. You all have done a wonderful job leading the development of spaces. And then added, what areas of improvements on campus are next to be done? What else are you working on?
Well, it's interesting. We call it our elevator speech because we will always have makeover areas that need to be improved. And one example would be the north side of the library. It's very outdated. It's never really probably a good design to start with. Not a lot of landscaping. It's mostly hardscape, outdated bike loops. So that's one we've got a concept on, and then the administration is doing some fundraising on. So that's probably one that would come up soon. So this elevator speech, we always have these concepts in case donors want to help out. We've got them ready to show them and some pricing. But, new buildings always come with new landscapes, and that's refreshing and exciting, and we get to design those, so we're thrilled to get to do that. But there's just a lot of areas that plant material is 50 years old, and it may have been planted too close to the building to begin with, and so we've got some renovations to do or makeovers with campus landscaping that way. But the athletic village, the way it's grown, we've got to be involved in those designs. So, you're so involved in it on a daily basis, you don't realize how drastically it's changed. But when you start looking back at before and after pictures, Julia, it is remarkable how much campus has changed from a campus beautification standpoint. But I'd say we've got several gardens that students have suggested that we're working with on, trying to get funding and in the process of designing. Orange Grove, I'm not sure if you connected with that one when you were here. That's the one with the giant hammock.
Oh, yeah.
And then we created spaces for students to have hammocks, and we can display some student artwork there. Again, that is a garden totally designed with input from students, and we have several of those. And probably one that is a surprise to people, and it's not a new one, but we're doing it in phases. The sidewalk that runs on the north side of the library that runs east and west, we call that our native plant corridor. And so every time we get funding or donor support, we're converting overgrown gardens, a lot of turf grass areas that are too close to buildings, so the mowing, interrupts classrooms. We're converting all of that to native plants, and it's called our native plant corridor. And if people get the opportunity, it's beautiful. And you'll walk through there and you'll have butterflies flying around. We've got pollinator gardens, but we're doing it in phases. And so that's something we keep working on. And I can't tell you how many times we've worked with students on designing those spaces, because we'll do one small garden at a time when we can afford it. And now it's being used as outdoor classroom space, plant ID, native plant ID, entomology, plant pathology is using it for identification of beneficial pollinators. Miss Hargis loves that garden. Gardens, there's many of them. She takes people on tours through there. So that's probably one that's very unknown or not familiar with people, because we have some subtle signage. We use QR codes. If people have a smartphone, it might say, you want to know more about this garden or what's in it. You scan that QR code and it tells everything about the garden and the plants in it. But that's one in the works all the time that will transform that corridor with native plants, of all things, on a formal college campus.
And this is a fun one. Somebody wants to know, does OSU really import squirrels? I haven't heard that one before. Somebody wants to know.
Well, I've not heard that one before, but I have had students ask if their tuition goes to pay for the squirrel food, and the answer would be no. We don't feed the squirrels purposely at all. Matter of fact, squirrels can be a little bit of a nuisance problem when there's too many of them, because they chew on the tree bark. And they actually, if you see chicken wire wrapped around tree trunks right now, it's not to keep college students out of it. It's to keep the squirrels off of them from chewing on the trunk and killing the tree. So no, we do not import squirrels, and we don't purposely feed them. Now we do have, I think 11 or 12 domestic ducks that stay on Theta Pond. And in the wintertime, we'll feed those ducks a little bit, and we can't keep the squirrels out of the food, just like we can't keep Canadian geese out of it either. So
seems like we need to export the squirrels, not.
There you go. I'm in favor of that, because people would be shocked at what kind of damage they can do. They're cute, but they can be vicious for sure. And so no, we do not want any more squirrels.
And so somebody else said that they loved the one-day educational campus tour Saturday programs that you put on a few years ago, and they're curious if there's any chance that they could see some of those again.
Yes, we have high hopes to get that initiated again. Now we're doing a lot of tours on campus too. Not so much with COVID year, of course, but we did some tours on different topics. Our public art collection outside has grown like crazy, so we hope to do some more tours with public art and the gardens and different things, new landscapes as well. But we call that program behind the scenes gardening. So we actually had folks come in and do some lectures and then take tours. And yeah, it was good. And we hope to get that started again here pretty soon.
All right. And to close us out, Steve, I have probably a very difficult question for you. The hardest one, I think, of the day. If you had to pick a favorite spot on campus, what would it be?
Boy, you're not kidding. That's like asking somebody to pick their favorite child. Oh my gosh, Julia. There's so many special ones to me, truly. That's a hard question, but I think if I look at the uniqueness and, the formal garden is one of my favorites because I get to help design that one. But I think if you look at the balance of art and the garden and the uniqueness of the native plants and the message behind it, the Welcome Plaza is by far one at the top. And then the native corridor that I was telling you about, that's so unique. You just don't see things like that on a college campus. You see that more in a botanical garden. So there's all kinds of surprises on campus. So like I say, that's a hard question for sure.
So you can't quite pick one, but I think you narrowed it down to some top areas.
Yeah, I narrowed it down, but that's tough for sure.
Fair enough. Well, thank you so much, Steve. Before we go, we do have some announcements for everybody watching. Now, if you'd like more information about all the work that Steve and his crew do there on campus to support campus beautification, you can go to osugiving.com, and there's a link on your screen right there. You can just follow that, copy and paste it. That would be great. Our next Friday with the family will be on April 16th. You will be able to register at orangeconnection.org/webinars. And there you can also view our previous broadcast with other educational videos as well offered on that site. Now, of course, today is a big day. It's almost that time for the big dance for men's basketball against Liberty. That'll be at 5:30. Then on Sunday, we have cowgirl basketball taking on Wake Forest at noon. The NCAA wrestling championships are happening right now through Saturday on ESPN networks. Cowboy baseball, golf, tennis, cross country, and track, and cowboy girls softball, golf, tennis, cross country. Sorry, I read that again. All of those sports are in action this weekend as well, so you're going to want to support those. And now's a great time to log on to your new profile at orangeconnection.org. That information is on your screen. There you can claim your life membership credit and secure your member benefits for life. Membership also helps the Alumni Association connect Cowboys virtually through programming like Friday with the Families. Thank you again, Steve, for joining us. Thank you all for watching. And we've got an exciting week ahead with all these athletic events, and hopefully soon people will be able to get on campus and see all that awesome work that you guys are doing there.
Thank you very much, Julie.
Thank you. And we'll send it out together. Everyone, as always, stay safe, healthy, and go Pokes.
Go Pokes.